On today's show, Jarrett Allen goes off against the Portland Trail Blazers, the best game of his career, and leads the Cavs to a win. We'll talk about that, plus the latest trade rumors I've heard involving the Cavs as the trade deadline continues to grow closer. We'll talk about it all on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey again, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to another edition of Locked On Cavs, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get them. That means Apple, that means Spotify, that means YouTube as well. If you're watching right now on YouTube, please do us a favor as we get started here. Hit that thumbs up button for us and click the notification bell and make sure you're subscribed wherever you might get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON, that is LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, we will be talking about the outstanding game that Jarrett Allen played against the Portland Trail Blazers on Sunday evening in a Cavs victory. We will talk about why this was an important win for the Cavs, and we will get into the latest because trade rumors continue to fly around about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I will tell you what I've heard about the Cavs potentially maybe taking a big swing at one of the biggest names on the trade market in segment number 3. But I want to start this show by talking about the actual basketball game that the Cavs played on Sunday night, because I think it was a pretty important win, and I think it would be an injustice to start this show by talking about anything other than Jarrett Allen. So the Cavs beat the Portland Trail Blazers 130-111 on Sunday night in Portland. It was the second game of their season-long 5-game West Coast road trip. And they won this game because Jarrett Allen was absolutely freaking dominant. There's no other word that rightly describes the way that he played in this game against Portland. He finished with 40 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks. This was unquestionably the best game that Jarrett Allen has ever played. I'm not sure that there's a close second. He's scored 30 or more points a handful of times in his career, but this was the most dominant performance, again, without question, that Jarrett Allen has ever had. And I think one of the best things too, in one of the early signs, was his activity level. In that first stint that he played in the first quarter, his activity level on both ends of the floor was very, very good. Offensively, he was awesome. I think he had 16 first quarter points. Donovan Cleveland, the starting center for the Portland Trail Blazers, who's a fine player. He's a good center in the NBA. He just absolutely was straight up not having a good time. Like there was no part of Donovan Cleveland that could do anything with Jarrett Allen for most of this game. He got off to a great start, not only offensively, but defensively as well, and rebounding the basketball too. Like there were these moments, and then the Cavs, when Allen subbed out in the back half of the first quarter, they weren't as good without him, which, you know, when a player has as strong of a game as Jarrett Allen did in this one, like I think that's something that sort of is to be expected, if you will. But what Allen was able to do on both ends of the floor, because he was blocking shots, he was altering shots, he was grabbing rebounds, he was running the floor. Like one of the things that gave him, I don't want to say this to take away from his performance, but part of the reason why he was able to get 40 on Sunday night is because he could just beat Donovan Cleveland down the floor. Jarrett Allen as a big he's not a perfect player. He's a very good player, obviously. But Jarrett Allen as a big, one of the key attributes that he has is his mobility. And that is because Donovan Cleveland is bigger than Jarrett Allen. I believe he's listed at 7'3". Like he is a big dude. Jarrett Allen is listed at 6'9". He is giving up 6 inches to Donovan Cleveland in height. But one of the advantages he has is that he's more mobile, that he's able to run the floor. There were a couple of baskets that Jarrett Allen had early in this game that I'm not sure Donovan Cleveland was on the other side of half court yet. Like he just was not able to make it down the floor. He was not able to keep up with Jarrett. And the Blazers are a team that do want to play a faster pace. They entered this game on Sunday playing a slightly faster pace than the Cavs for the full season so far this year. So for them to want to get up and down, despite the fact that they have a center that cannot get up and down as well as the Cavs center could in Jarrett Allen, that was a big advantage to the Cavs. And that was one of the things that I think everybody should be really glad they did take advantage of, because I do think that we have seen Jarrett go through these inconsistent stretches, right? Like he is not this guy every single night. And to be fair, nobody outside of Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid in the prime at this position is the guy that Jarrett Allen was every single night. Like no center is that guy every single night. If Jarrett Allen were that guy every single night, he would be the best player in basketball or one of the best players in basketball. But to see the activity level, and like that is the thing that I look at and say, is there a way for the Cavs to get that level of activity out of Jarrett Allen more? Now, of course, like they're not going to have a lot of games, especially, and part of this is because they had so many guys missing. They're not going to have a lot of games where they can get Jarrett Allen 23 shots. Like I would venture to guess there will be fewer than, and I don't know how many there are this year so far. I would guess there will be fewer than 7 games this season in which Jarrett Allen leads the Cavs in field goal attempts. It's just not part of who they are. Now, we all know the record when Jarrett Allen takes 10 or more shots. I believe they've not lost a game so far this season, but he is not somebody that is just going to lead this team in field goal attempts often, if ever. So that's a rarity, but I do think it was a great sign that when the Cavs recognized how good Jarrett was playing early on, that they kept getting the basketball to him, that they kept making it a point of emphasis, because I do think it's a fair complaint and it's not necessarily Jarrett's fault. And the same exact thing can be said for Evan. But what is one of the things that we talk about? It's, oh, well, Evan or Jarrett, because they are interchangeable, I think, in this aspect. Jarrett Allen had a great first quarter and then he was a ghost the rest of the game. Is that always Jarrett's fault? No. The rest of the guys on the team have to do sometimes a better job of getting him the basketball. And I think that the Cavs do deserve a lot of credit for continuing to recognize how good Jarrett was playing and continuing to feed him the basketball over and over and over again. Because it's not just that he had 23 field goal attempts in this game. He also had 12 free throw attempts. He went 8 of 12 from the free throw line. I think all 4 of his misses. I think he started 2 of 6. So I do believe he made his final 6 free throws, which of course is a good sign. But they got him the basketball over and over and over again. And they rewarded him for what he has been doing defensively, what he did early on defensively in this game, just the guy that he is defensively. And he was awesome on that end too. Like Donovan Clingan, as I mentioned, was 3 of 10. I believe 2 of those buckets came when Jarrett was not on the floor. Like this was as wide of a gap between bigs as we might see in a game this year that the Cavs play. Like Jarrett Allen was that good in this game. And one of Clingan's baskets was a 3-pointer where you'll just kind of live with that. But he also had 4 blocks. Like he was just outstanding around the rim defensively. He could have had 5. Dean Wade got called for a foul on, I believe it was a Jeremy Grant drive that Jarrett Allen swatted away. And that would have been a 5th block. And like was a very easy block that he had, if not for the Dean Wade foul. And like, that just kind of is what it is. But the impact that Jarrett Allen had in this game is something we're not going to see every night. It's unfair to expect Jarrett Allen to have this type of impact every night. But overall, I would like to see Jarrett Allen have this type of activity level every night. I'm talking about the way that he's moving around. And I get it. It's an 82-game season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And some nights the Cavs need more from Jarrett Allen than other nights. And this where the Cavs were shorthanded and Donovan Mitchell wasn't great. And we will talk about that coming up in a minute too. But the Cavs needed this type of performance from Jarrett Allen. I think it's a really reassuring thing that this was the version of Allen they got. I am very curious to see how he follows it up, because the Cavs do now have 2 days off, which I think is a very important thing looking ahead at the calendar. We will talk about that coming up in the next segment too. But it also too, just to give credit where it's due here, Jarrett Allen wasn't the only good part of this. It's not like Jarrett Allen was awesome and they won and everybody else stunk. Like, no, the Cavs had some really strong performances from a few other guys. I thought Jalen Tyson in this game was really, really good. He was outstanding from beyond the arc, as he continues to be. He hit all 4 threes that he took. He had 18 points. He had 6 assists. He had 3 rebounds, did turn the ball over 4 times. And the Cavs they were sloppy with the basketball in the first half. Second half, they were so much better with it. And that's kind of why they pulled away in this game, because this was a 9-point game at halftime. And then the Cavs beat the Blazers by 11, 41-30 in the third quarter alone, primarily because in the third quarter, the Cavs only had 2 turnovers compared to 10 in the first half. That was certainly part of it. But I thought Jalen Tyson played really, really well in this game. I thought Sam Merrill was probably the second or third best player for the Cavs in this game. He had 22 points. He hit 6 threes. Like, I know that we look at Sam as just this awesome shooter, and he is this awesome shooter, but he's doing things on the offensive end of the floor that he was not doing before. There were 2 threes that he made in Sunday night's game that I look at as they were happening. I'm just like, you know what? I don't think Sam makes that play a year ago. The one where he hit a step back wing on the left, or a step back 3 on the left wing, was the type of play where it was off the, I think he took 4 or 5 dribbles before letting it fly, which has not been part of Sam's game last year or in any other season of his career. And then the other one was when he missed a 3, one of his only 2 misses on the right wing, got it back, pump faked, took an escape dribble, pump faked again, and then let it fly. And I'm just not sure that Sam had that type of patience in his game prior to this season. So I do think that those little things like that, where he's having such a big impact in several ways, those little things show me that there is a lot of growth for him as a basketball player, that he's not just this guy that can go out there and light it up from beyond the arc. Now, he still is that guy. He still is one of the best shooters in the NBA, but to put up 22 points, knock down 6 threes, also have 4 assists is a big thing. Like, he's a ball mover now in a way that I don't think he was before. He's obviously still a great shooter. Like, I just think that Sam has gotten so much better as a basketball player. And I know there was a lot of conversation because Ty Jerome made his debut and had 20 points for Memphis on Saturday. But that, I think, and I know that a lot of the other stuff from this offseason did not go well. That was still the correct decision that the Cavs made, because Sam Merrill has been worth every penny so far, and I think so much more. Now, Donovan Mitchell actually did not have a very good game in this one. And that's why I think it's important the Cavs won the game. I'll tell you why next. Plus, we will dive into some trade talk and the latest rumors and a big target the Cavs maybe do have their eyes on coming up next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game, it is almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And this week's Prize Picks has a special max discount for the big game live in the app right now. Drake May just needs 1 passing yard. I think he's going to hit it. I think he can get over 1 for the max discount to win. Again, just 1 passing yard. I could maybe do that. Drake May can definitely do that. And add another player to your lineup. And if your picks hit, you can cash in. Prize Picks, super simple to use, takes no time to get started, and the whole format is very clean. You pick more or less on between 2 and 6 player projections, and you can win. It makes watching games even more fun because every drive and every stat truly does matter. Plus, the social feeds feature, totally awesome because you can share lineups and even copy lineups from other winners with just 1 click. Plus, with Prize Picks, you can follow your partners and you can tail or fade picks right from the feed. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA, to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen. And thank you to those everydayers out there that make Locked On Cavs their first listen every single day. And if that's you, we want to give you a free month of the new Everydayer Club to help get you ready for the NBA trade deadline. Because if you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Cavs fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. You also get ad-free versions of this podcast. And if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE, that is DEADLINE, to get your first month for free. So tap the link in the show notes to learn more. One of the big reasons why I thought this win on Sunday was an important one for the Cavs is because Donovan Mitchell didn't play very well in it. And I thought that Donovan looked like a guy with heavy legs in this game. I didn't think he was moving as explosively as we're used to seeing him move. Finished the night with 14 points, which is fine. Did have 9 assists to 3 turnovers. I think the 3 turnovers may have all been in the first half, but he was just 6 of 15 shooting. He was 2 of 7 on threes. Did not get to the free throw line a single time. Did have a block, did have a couple of steals, did have a couple of rebounds, or no, he did not have a rebound. Never mind. I looked at the wrong column. But he didn't have his best stuff. And it's not fair to expect Donovan Mitchell to have his best stuff every single night. And the fact that the Cavs, who were coming off of what I thought was a relatively ugly loss against the Phoenix Suns on Friday night, where I don't necessarily want to say they let go of the rope, because I do think that the deep reserves that played in the fourth quarter were very good and made that final score much closer than it was down the stretch. But they got blown out in that third quarter. And I think that responding to that game, the same way that I've said after a lot of losses, like this loss is only as important as what happens next. And I think that was true of Friday's game against the Phoenix Suns. And so often when that's happened, Donovan Mitchell has been the guy that has stepped up and been the biggest reason why the Cavs have won the next game. That wasn't the case on Sunday. And I think it's a good thing that wasn't the case, because the Cavs truly do need Donovan Mitchell to be awesome to get to where they want to go. But they also need other guys to be able to carry some of that load. And that's why I think that when Donovan doesn't have a good night, you are able to see, like, if you watch this game, obviously Donovan is going to draw so much attention, right? Offensively, teams defend the Cavs differently when Donovan Mitchell's on the floor compared to when he's off the floor. Like, that is just fact. But if you watch this game and you're just thinking, well, among the Cavs players, where did Donovan Mitchell rank on Sunday night? Like, how many players on the Cavs, and I'm not saying are better basketball players than Donovan Mitchell, because there's nobody on this team that is a better basketball player than Donovan Mitchell. But Jarrett Allen was a better basketball player on Sunday night than Donovan Mitchell was. There's no shame there. Allen was freaking awesome in this game. I thought Jalen Tyson was a better basketball player in this game than Donovan Mitchell was. I thought Sam Merrill was a better basketball player in this game than Donovan Mitchell was. I think you could maybe make the case, considering how good he was defensively, that Dean Wade, who scored 6 points on 2 of 4 from beyond the arc, but was a team best plus 32, was a better basketball player than Donovan Mitchell on Sunday night. This is not to say that those guys are all better than Donovan, because everybody knows that's not the case. Donovan, to me, is one of the 5 best players in basketball. He was named an all-star reserve, his 7th straight all-star team on Sunday. I think it's ridiculous that he's not an all-star starter, because I think he is the best shooting guard in the NBA. And he's not an all-star starter, and that to me is wrong. But he didn't have it on Sunday. And normally, if you look at how many guys the Cavs had out in this game, because Darius Garland not back yet, Evan Mobley still out with that sore calf, obviously no Max Strus, DeAndre Hunter has been traded, is no longer on the team, Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder not with the team yet. I imagine they're going to meet the team in Los Angeles, because the Cavs are probably flying as we speak, or close to it, as I'm recording this at 12:11 in the morning. Maybe not flying quite yet, but will be in the air at some point very early Monday morning to fly from Sacramento to fly from Portland to Los Angeles, where they will essentially spend this week, because they have 2 days off before they play the Clippers on Wednesday. And then they have 2 days off after they play the Clippers before they play the Kings on Saturday. But I thought in this game, Donovan Mitchell looked tired. And I understand why he looked tired. He has been playing a lot of minutes lately. There's been a lot on his shoulders with all of the guys that have been out. And I do think right now, given the week that is ahead with the Cavs, and I'm not even talking trade stuff right now, but just by looking at the schedule, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for Donovan. And I do think that these next couple of days off are going to be very, very beneficial for him physically, and probably a little bit mentally as well. I also think that the 2 days off after the game against the Clippers, before the game against the Kings, will be another big benefit to Donovan Mitchell. Like, I do think that Donovan Mitchell on Sunday night looked like somebody who had run into a bit of a wall. And there's no shame in that. I think that happens from time to time. I think that sometimes you just need rest. And I do think, too, if the Cavs had a better record than they do right now, like, let's say they had not kicked away the game against the Utah Jazz, or lost those games to the Chicago Bulls, or, just pick whatever bad loss you want to fill in here. If they had not built those up, say that they would be, say instead of being 29-21 going into this game, they would have been, 34-16. I'm not sure Donovan Mitchell would have played in this game. I think this could have been a good opportunity to get him some extended rest before the All-Star break. However, the Cavs are in a position where they can't afford to do that. And part of that is because of health. But I think the fact that the Cavs, the rest of the group, with so many guys out, and I haven't even mentioned Craig Porter Jr. yet, who was really, really good in this game, despite the fact that he just kind of doesn't score, but he had 12 assists and 5 steals and 2 blocks and 4 rebounds. Like, he was awesome in so many different facets of the game. Despite the fact he was 1 of 5 from the floor, only scored 3 points. The fact that all of those guys were able to take the burden off of Donovan Mitchell's shoulders, if only for a night, to give the Cavs a win that I don't want to say this was a must-win game, but I think had the Cavs lost this game, particularly with Denny Avdia not playing in it for Portland because of a back injury, if they would have lost this game, because then you look ahead and the game on Wednesday against the Clippers is a tough game. I know that the Clippers are below 500, but they have been, like we talk about that December 22nd date with the Cavs, where the Cavs have been one of the best teams in basketball since then. One of the only teams that's been better than them since that date has been the LA Clippers. They have been fantastic lately. Even though they lost over the weekend to Denver, and they're back and they are in action on Monday, so the Cavs will have a little bit more rest than them. But the Clippers have been a very, very good basketball team lately. Going into that game, and then you have the Kings on Saturday, and the Kings have lost 9 straight, and they're just a very bad basketball team. And I imagine they're going to look much different on Saturday post-trade deadline than they do even right now, and they obviously will look different now than they did when the Cavs last traded for them, because they will have DeAndre Hunter and they no longer have Dennis Schroeder. They no longer have Keon Ellis because those guys are now on the Cavs. And then you wrap up this road trip with the Denver Nuggets, who are one of the best teams in basketball. Like, getting this win on Sunday, I think was really, really important, because if now the Cavs, and they should win on Saturday in Sacramento, if they can find a way to win one of the games against LA on Wednesday or against the Nuggets on Monday, so a week from today, then I think you start to say, okay, this was a very, very successful road trip, despite the fact that what happened in Phoenix. If the Cavs can find a way to win one of those 2 games and take care of business against Sacramento, you feel really, really good about things. So getting a win when Donovan Mitchell was not at his best as a response victory after a loss, I think is a very good sign of a very good team. I think it's something that overall the Cavs should be pretty happy with, because it wasn't Donovan that carried him to a win. It was a lot of the other guys they needed to step up, and those guys did step up. Now, trade rumors are continuing to fly. Cavs have already made one deal. I do not anticipate that they are done making trades. I'll tell you what I've heard, and could they be making a big swing? We'll talk about it next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part, well, hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. Puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fan. You can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game. I don't know, maybe you're a Cavs fan living in LA and you want to see the Cavs take on the Clippers on Wednesday inside Intuit Dome, and you want tickets. Well, the best way to get in that building is with Game Time. They will take the guesswork out of buying tickets. You'll be able to see the all-in price up front. That means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Plus, you can get the view from your seat before buying, so you can take any stress that you might have. Man, am I going to have a good seat? Yes, you're going to have a good seat, because you're going to be able to see what that seat looks like before you buy. So get last minute options with Game Time, because they will help get you in the door at a very solid price. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON, that is LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much talk about relationships. And it can honestly feel like everybody might have it all together in their love life. And maybe it feels like you don't. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just loving yourself, most people are still figuring it out. And no matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you to find your way. It can help you clear what you want and what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off of yourself. It's easy to assume that everyone out there has the perfect relationship, right? We all see it on social media. Everybody's always at their happiest. That's not always the truth, and you shouldn't necessarily believe that because most people are working through something, whether you see it or not. Therapy can help you recognize patterns that might be weighing relationships down. It can help you communicate better, set healthier boundaries, and stop carrying everything alone. Even if you're not in a relationship right now, therapy can help you feel more confident in what you want moving forward. And the biggest thing, it reminds you that you are not behind, you are right on time. BetterHelp has licensed therapists in the US, and they do initial matching work for you so you can focus on your goals. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That is BETTERHELP.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDONNBA. Again, betterhelp.com/lockedonnba for more. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube. If you're watching right now, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, hit the notification bell, and make sure you're subscribed wherever you might be listening to this show. So the Cavs have already made one trade, obviously sending out DeAndre Hunter, and in return getting Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. I do not anticipate that the Cavs are done making trades. There are a few reasons why I believe this. Some of this is reading tea leaves. Some of this are things that I have been told by various sources from across the NBA. So right now, the Cavs currently sit $13.8 million over the second apron. That is as a result of the trade that they made. They went into the trade with Hunter on the roster, approximately 22, or it may have been exactly $22 million over the second apron. Now, that second apron, as we know, carries some trade restrictions with it. You cannot aggregate salaries. You cannot take back a single dollar more than what you send out. It can be very difficult to navigate. I think I'm not here to say I think the Cavs are going to get out of the second apron, because unless they take a big swing after a star player, maybe one that plays for the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't see a reason to do so. But what I do think is going to happen is I do think the Cavs are going to get, at the very least, closer to that second apron number. I would be surprised if, when the trade deadline rolls around at 3:00 on Thursday afternoon, I would be surprised if Lonzo Ball is still a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Lonzo Ball experience has not gone well for the Cavs. He was not good in this game on Sunday against the Blazers. The Cavs offense has fallen off a cliff when he's been on the floor entering play. The Cavs had an offensive rating of 117.1, I believe, when Lonzo was not on the floor, which is basically a top 5 offense. I believe that would be 6th in the NBA. And when Lonzo is on the floor, the Cavs offensively are like 111.1, which is basically a bottom 5 offense in the NBA. It might be bottom 6. I'm not sure exactly where it stands, but you get the picture. Like, that is a difference between being elite and being horrific on the offensive end of the floor. I don't think that's something the Cavs can continue to do. I think that's why the Cavs have looked better when Lonzo has not been in the rotation. And I still understand why the Cavs made that trade this summer. I still think it was the right idea. It has not panned out because Lonzo Ball has not been able to make threes, although he did make one against the Blazers, and he cannot make shots inside the paint. And you cannot survive offensively when you have a player that can do neither of those things. He has essentially turned into the Cavs version of Ben Simmons. That is what Lonzo Ball has become. So I do think that the Cavs are going to move on from Lonzo Ball. I think that they are going to need to incentivize a team to take on his contract. What this means is they're going to have to attach 1, maybe 2 second-round picks in order to tell a team, which I have heard could potentially be the Washington Wizards, could potentially be the Brooklyn Nets, could potentially be the Utah Jazz, all of which either have cap space they can absorb Lonzo Ball into, or a trade exception or the mid-level exception that they can absorb Lonzo Ball's salary into. But the Cavs, from what I have gathered, are going to need to attach a pick in order to do so. So if the Cavs do this, this accomplishes a couple of different things. One, right now, the Cavs have 15 players on standard contracts. They need to open up a space to sign Naquan Tomlin to a NBA standard contract, whether that contract is a multi-year deal or just the rest of this season. Naquan Tomlin, I believe, only has 3 more games left on his 2-way deal. So they do need to, after the trade deadline, he could play through the trade deadline. Like, it's not a thing that needs to happen right now. And I have been told they are planning on exhausting his 2-way eligibility before they convert him to a new contract. but they need an open roster spot to do so. They need to have a standard NBA roster slot. Right now, they don't have one. Trading Lonzo Ball into someone's exception or cap space gives them an open roster spot to do so. But like I said, they will need to attach at least 1 second-round pick in order to make it happen. The teams I've heard, maybe Utah, maybe Brooklyn, maybe Washington. It could be somebody else too. Like I've not heard that it is definitely one of those teams. Those are just the 3 teams that I have heard that it could be. Now, if they do that, then the Cavs are $3.8 million over the second apron. And that gets them into the space where I think they could potentially make a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Am I sitting here right now as of 12:24 in the morning on Monday, February 2nd? Am I expecting that to happen? I am not. I think it's still a long shot, but I do think the Cavs are a team right now that various NBA teams consider a dark horse to acquire Giannis. I wouldn't peg them as the favorite. I wouldn't even say that it's likely Giannis gets traded at this point. I have heard from a few different places. I have heard sort of just like mixed feelings on whether or not he actually gets dealt. I think there is some thought by at least a couple of teams in the NBA that the Bucks are not going to trade Giannis prior to the deadline on Thursday. This, of course, does not mean that they won't, because these things are very fluid. But from everything I've gathered, the price is very, very high for Giannis. I also do not think that the Cavs want to trade Evan Mobley for Giannis. I think that is exactly the first thing the Milwaukee Bucks would ask for. And I don't think the Cavs want to part with Evan Mobley, even in a deal for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Of course, all of these things could change. But what I have gathered so far is just that. I do think that there has been at least some dialogue between the two teams. I don't know how serious it's gotten, but I do think that there has been at least a little bit of dialogue between the Cavs and the Bucks in regards to Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I would imagine that there has been regard or some dialogue between the Bucks and about 20 to 25 NBA teams about Giannis Antetokounmpo. So this is not a thing that makes the Cavs special. As long as Kobe Altman is in charge with the Cavs, anytime a star player comes available, I think Kobe's going to call that team. And I think the proof you need is Donovan Mitchell. If Kobe doesn't make a call to Utah, Donovan Mitchell is not a member of the Cavaliers. Like, that is just the way that this front office is going to operate, even if the chances of it happening are incredibly small. But I do think that it's unlikely the Cavs trade for Giannis, but you cannot rule it out either. I really don't think that you can. I think it'd be foolish to. Ultimately, I'm probably at the point, from what I have heard, I'm probably at the point where I don't think Giannis gets moved prior to the trade deadline on Thursday. But if he does, could the Cavs be a team that lands him? I wouldn't predict it, but I can't say for sure that they won't be either. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Cavs. On tomorrow's show, hoping to line up a guest to talk through some of the acquisitions the Cavs have had. And of course, I will have you covered with any breaking news that happens between now and the NBA trade deadline on Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern time, because I do expect, as I said, I expect the Cavs to be active between now and then. Whether it's a move on the margin like the Lonzo Ball one I talked about, or maybe potentially trying to swing for the fences. We don't know what the Cavs are going to do, but I do anticipate that they're going to do at least one other move before the deadline gets here. So as we get out of here, please do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me on YouTube and hit the notification bell, and make sure that you click subscribe wherever you might be listening to this podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that is anywhere else. And I will be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.